keeping him because he just yields such fun, entertaining games, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think it also kind of describes what happens to him in a best of or in a whole tournament. Like, I'm totally with you. Momentum is the name of this guy, but he's otherwise known as Team Liquid's uThermal.
And down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, the blue Protoss player who both ends his name with a D and a T, depending on how he feels. It is Gerald. Representing Team Exxon?
Yeah. Exxon. I mean, are you just doing this on purpose? No, we're going to do the two different pronunciations of Gerald.
No,
Gerald.
So for those who don't know, right now in the overlay, it is spelled Geral and it ends with a T. On a lot of brackets, and including on like Skype, well, and I think also Discord, it ends with a D.
Right.
And then he just kind of, it feels like he just sort of alternates and flips a coin every single time he registers an account and is like, should I end it with a T or a G or a D today?
Right. But we're also changing the pronunciation of the G though. We're really flexing English, you know?
Gerald?
Gerald and Geralt.
Geralt. We can call him Geralt. Then he sounds like some kind of old school knight.
Sounds like a medical condition.
I actually, wait, is Geralt a famous knight?
Geralt's a famous witcher.
Oh my god, I'm thinking of the Witcher. I'm like, this sounds very medieval. I wonder why.
Oh, that's so weird. I don't understand. That's why I go with it. He said multiple times he doesn't really care. He's literally said both when asked, so it doesn't really matter. But uThermal not starting things off with any type of proxy. It is Everdream though, so I'd honestly be a little shocked about a two-base attack not happening. I realize like there's always that thing about like, well, it's too obvious, so you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't download a car. You wouldn't two-base on Everdream. But no, I actually think that uThermal absolutely would.
I agree. I think uThermal is exactly the kind of person who would download a car. I also want to note that Gerald did go for the Gate Cyber Core Nexus as opposed to like Gate Nexus Core. So that does mean that his Adept is a little bit faster and ideally would be able to help deal with his Reaper. And he's doing a good job of zoning it out of the main. That is the main thing that is being accomplished right now. But the Reaper's still going to get in and scout out that Stargate.
That's most important. So even though it will die here to 2 Adepts, it scouts the Stargate.
Or will it? It will.
Yes. No. Yes. No. Yes. No. Yes.
Oh my god! I have to say though, one of my it's one of those my favorite things about uThermal is that his big upswing, I feel like, as a player, came around the 3-Rax Reaper time, and he was known as the best 3-Rax Reaper player in all of Europe. I think then it was him for Europe, it was Bjorn for Korea, and then it was Kelazor for NA.
Is that when he won IEM?
It may very well have been. My timeline's a little bit off.
Yeah, like, oh god, timelines in StarCraft are just like 10 years, guys. It's hard to remember everything. But I feel like I already knew of him and that he was really good before 3-Rax Reaper. Not too long before, but still before. You might be right, though. I mean, lots of Terrans had an upswing. Kelazor as well, could really work with the Reapers and did well for himself. But anyways, something more interesting than the past is the current. Phoenix are being produced from that Stargate. uThermal is kind of doing, he's not going for a Cyclone here. So it's actually not helping him with the Adepts, but it is finally going to get cleaned up. He's at least adding on a Viking. He's not going to do any 2-base push, aside from the normal one with Stim and Combat Shields. So, all right then. But what I thought was interesting was that Geralt went right into charge, probably because he anticipated a 2-base push. Roddy, when we were casting on Thursday, I think it was, or Wednesday, he was really hardcore about it. He was like, if only he had gone charge, I think that's a really nice thing to grab against these pushes. And I think he was absolutely right. So this might be a direct response to the potential that Everdream shows for that Terran, or it might just be a way to play differently, as it is different. Like Phoenix charge doesn't happen that often anymore, and Terran players have kind of gotten used to not having to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to note that Adept, when it did stick around in that main base for a little bit longer than you normally would see an Adept there, it saw the last little glimmer of, I think, 1, maybe 2 of the barracks being thrown down as well. So probably has a decent sense that, like, yeah, I should be prepared for something like that. And with Charge getting closer and closer to finishing up, yeah, should be very well set up with the tools needed. Not necessarily it doesn't guarantee that it is going to be a just super solid defense against something like that, but at least has the tools available to deal with it.
I love how not much has happened, but so many things could have happened. You know, like they're really, good Phoenix snipe right there. They're really playing into a lot of what ifs. I think they're both doing it very well. Maybe Gerald was intentional and uThermal is unintentional, but uThermal not going for a 2-base push of any sort before he has stim, combat shield, etc., etc. He's actually going to do okay. He does still need to recognize that it is charge, which is difficult to do just because Phoenix keep you pinned. You don't want to waste a scan. But when he does, I mean, it just kind of changes the pacing a little bit. You're still going to have a decent amount of Widow Mines. You're still going to have a really good amount of bio. The push could still work out because it's not like Gerald's doing a 2-base all-in.
Yeah, man, so many Widow Mines actually just coating the edge of uThermal's main base. But I think as soon as those Phoenix are able to realize, okay, the Widow Mines aren't there anymore, that should also signal, hey, the push is coming out. But having an Adept in the center is another good way to realize that. Looks like the Adept should be able to escape out of there alive as well, because no concussive shells or anything being researched just yet. It's now being started up. Adept actually does shade past the army and might be able to just harass some of the reinforcements. Phoenix sniping off a few units as well. That's not too bad.
That Adept shade literally confused me. I was like, wait, is that his side of the map? Yeah.
Oh, look at that. He's going to snipe off a Widow Mine or two.
Well, he tried. And then it failed, so so much for that. Plus one armor isn't done. Despite Gerald having these like really scary charge slots, he hasn't been on top of the army, and he's already disbarred from his own natural. The Widow Mines pop off all of the Phoenix. I guess they're not here for the Zealots anymore, but look how tightly packed in that bio is.
Oh my God, Sniper! I love the decision to not kill the gateway because it just created more of a wall for the Zealots. And now in the middle line, this is yet another massive wall that the Zealots have to deal with. Medevac's healing through so much of this DPS from the Zealots. The Immortal is starting to deal a lot of damage here, but now that its reinforcements are gone, it's gonna go down. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we're gonna be seeing uThermal getting the GGG in game number 1.
Oh, that hurts. You're like, I have a pretty good setup. I think I'm okay. Oh, no. Like,
that's just so barely out of position. Barely out of position.
He barely wasn't ready. There was already things not happening that actually felt more like okay, the push is going to come. I know what to do. Oh, shoot, I lost a Phoenix. I still know what to do. Oh, shoot, I lost another Phoenix. I still know what to do. Oh, my God. It was like a cascading effect, you know, that I think we've all experienced. But it went from losing the Phoenix kind of awkwardly to not having quite enough charge lots to fully scare off the push, especially once the Widow Mines were burrowed, into too abusive of SimCity. Otherwise, if he's on top of everything, I think Gerald actually has a beautiful chance to kind of bop uThermal's push and send him packing.
Yeah, and I like that Gerald was at least trying some stuff, like toward the end when the Widow Mines were burrowing. And he already realized he was losing a lot of the Zealots, and Bioforce already jumped up into like the ramp and everything inside the natural. He tried to use the Phoenix to bait the Widow Mine hits into the bio, and he did get one of the Widow Mine hits to go off on the bio, but it wasn't enough. A lot of the bio was still very, very healthy and had already been healed up a bit from the stim. So a nice attempt there, but uThermal looking really, really strong in that first game.
Yeah, if we all go back in our collective StarCraft memory to when Phoenix Charge Out was the thing to do, we can remember a lot of those engagements where not only were there an overwhelming number of charge lots, the Widow Mines backfired, literally, and how cruel that can look. So I still think that Geralt chose the right thing to protect him from the early game, and it was still something that was doable in the mid game. It was going to get maybe a bit tough as time went on because he had lost a lot of his Phoenix. He didn't have Blink. He didn't have access up to Templar Archives or Colossus, but it definitely wasn't supposed to end there.
Yeah, it's certainly a tough and kind of frustrating way for the first game to go down, as that's also one of those things that uThermal can kind of toss in willy-nilly as like one game, but it's also the kind of push that you could definitely do multiple games in a row and really keep your opponent honest, especially since now uThermal has an extra game to play around with and to see how he can do with this. Head to Death Aura, though. Do you have any thoughts on this map or size limitations or anything that might eliminate some pushes?
For TVP, not so much. Again, one of our larger maps, unless you really focus on tearing down those rocks. But that was you know, TVZ, I thought Marine Lord like proved exactly what you could and should do on that map. TVP, I'm not so sure there's anything as abusive. I'm really trying to think, and I can't remember. It's usually pretty nice for that triangle pattern of the Protoss' setup. And then, what else have we really seen on it? You know what? They're probably going to do something. And I'm going to be like, oh, right. That's what you do on Death Aura. So just wait for their build orders.
All right. I'm looking forward to it because it looks like the game is getting loaded on up, and game number 2 should be a fun one, but we'll see whether or not this man can take a game and bring this to a game number 3. It is the blue Protoss player. Put your hands together for Gerald.
In the top left, as the Red Terran, he is Team Liquid's uThermal.
I'm always a little bit upset when uThermal doesn't get blue. I feel like all the Liquid players should always get blue.
I'm with you. I am with you.
One day.
Yeah. Looks like nothing weird here, as it is a barracks into gas. I believe they're not already kind of sets up a story here for the Terran. So, yeah, Death Aura. It's coming to mind anything too abusive. Gerald has had a variety of builds that I've seen from him in this matchup in particular. But at the end of the day, I still recognize him as that one of those Protosses who wants to break out alongside like 6 other Protosses. And they're usually battling each other for the next top spot. When it comes to these other matchups, I always feel like they're going to struggle. Even though I'm sure I'm almost positive that all of their PvPs aren't their best, even though it feels that way. Gerald's PvT could actually be his best, but uThermal is usually quite the he's the guy we think is going to top his group many of the times.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is funny that you mentioned there are a lot of those Protoss players in Europe that are kind of trying to fight for that little edge to become one of the top players. You know, you think about like Rail, Skillis, Hellraiser, Spaz, Gunku Banda, Art, DNA. I mean, there's just a whole flurry of them. And it is a tough competition, especially to try and set yourself apart. But well, taking down someone like uThermal would mean a lot and would definitely set up Gerald to be in a better spot in the group and maybe make some magic happen later on. Even just give it a bit of confidence, because I believe that Gerald is actually sitting 1-1 right now. So it's not the worst spot to be.
No, yeah, totally. There's a lot of potential there. Good scout in this probe. Not that I think it was going to do anything, but, well, maybe it won't now. I actually think it's interesting what uThermal's doing. This is something that Gerald did scout. So no Reaper right into the reactor is actually a little bit scary. It does help some of the pushes that we see off those 2 bases just a little bit more, you know? Like, amongst us, pleb leagues doesn't matter. We get a Reaper, we don't get a Reaper, who cares? But amongst like the Masters here, the Grand Masters, it can usually affect the game a little bit. And he is going to be doing something aggressive. So, I mean, Gerald might already be clued in because there wasn't a Reaper, because he saw the reactor timing. But do you clue into the proxy starport specifically? Maybe after you see the reactor on the factory.
Oh, Zombie Grub, this gets so weird because the Marines are out in the center of the map and they are going to encounter one of the Stalkers, which is trying to use the slow zone, or sorry, the fast zone, but it actually backfires. The Marines are taking full advantage of it more so. The Stalker gets very low. The other Stalker has to retreat back. Now these Marines should theoretically all die without the Stalkers going down, but the Stalker gets surrounded.
Whoa, he just wasn't paying attention. He went back home to do something. I'm not sure what. He's going to lose both Stalkers.
Oh.
What? What was he doing? Oh,
Trying to recall.
Well, no. I meant like, why was he missed micro right up until the recall? Yeah. I thought maybe he was going back to start a blink, or maybe he did and then realized he could. I don't know, but he finally starts a blink. He finally starts up a wall.
Yeah, that one Stalker was just sitting there because I guess I had full hit points and.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh, the Dark Shrine proxy gets found out. Oh, that's so painful.
I can't anymore. I'm like, I've like, you know, grown to love some Protoss play, and I don't think I can look at this game anymore, dude. Like, it's gonna be brutal. Those Hellions are gonna have less units to go up against.
Do you still make the Dark Shrine again?
No, I really don't think you do.
Well, Pylon's gonna see the medevac immediately, giving Gerald a few more seconds to respond and react to this, but the Hellions are already diving on into that main base, and it looks like the reaction is not quite as fast as Gerald was hoping for.
Well, that was a building, so it didn't really see the medevac drop until very late. Poor Hellion still alive. At least the warpings were available. You know, there's a decent amount of units here to take care of this, but Blink isn't done, and the soccer numbers weren't in place to stop 7 probes from dying, and that will just live. That will just live, and now definitely don't do GTs. Raven is on the way. Well, I mean, things could be worse, but they could also be a heck of a lot better.
Zombie Grove, here's some counter logic. If your opponent gets a Raven, they probably didn't get an engineering bay, and they're almost assuredly going to move out with the Raven. Maybe late game DTs. You wait for them to move out.
I'm a big fan of late game DTs.
Yeah.
I'm all about DTs right after your Dark Shrine. Maybe if it was Zest. I'd be a believer if it was Zest.
If Zest throws out a Dark Shrine in any situation, like Zest could have no Nexus, no workers, 150 gas. He spends it all in the Dark Shrine, can't warp any DTs, and I'd be like, this is a smart move.
Well, you would say that.
I just trust Zest with that.
You would.
Oh boy. Well, full health Hellions still going to be able to one-shot workers over here, and that's already a lot more damage than Gerald really could afford to take right now.
Yeah, even though he was on top of it pretty quickly with Blink available, trying to body block. Still, 7 probes when you have no counter damage potential, that's brutal. If he was attacking, and that's why he took 7 probes with the damage, I'd be like, well, maybe, you know, Stims up for grabs, combat shields on the edge. But he doesn't. He doesn't have anything set up. He doesn't have enough units. uThermal is very aware that that's a potential way of Gerald's comeback, so he's totally prepared for it. And we are just waiting for uThermal's push with all of those upgrades we see on the production tab. Gerald's going to forgo some upgrades here. He's got to give up something and go for a lot of gateways. We certainly have seen some comeback potential with this type of plan. Was it Gerald that we were casting? I don't even actually remember. But, you know, Disruptors barely saved the day, and then High Templars barely come in. Although in this case, it's not a High Templar, it's a Dark Templar.
Yeah. Gonna try and mix those in a little bit later on. These Stalkers have got to make use of that Blink upgrade as they try and harass and poke away uThermal. I mean, even just kind of distracting him. uThermal, of course, is a top-notch player, so just having 1 or 2 Stalkers poking forward at the front and then blinking back is usually not going to be enough to actually set off his macro and everything. But hey, sometimes you find things like this where a siege tank... No! That's the free siege tank! Oh my god, he has a second chance. Okay, he's gonna take it this time.
I love it. It was the reflex, you know, like, oh my god, there's an army.
Yeah.
Oh wait. Well, luckily you got a second chance there. So 1 tank down, hey, that really does help. I think even more helpful is getting that Raven.
Love this Warp Prism Zealot Warpin in the main base. This is actually going to be really nice. Snipes off another siege tank without losing the Stalkers. This is actually a really great series of events so far from Gerald. And remember, even though he only kills maybe 6-7 workers over here, he also draws back a lot of the reinforcements that would otherwise be moving across the map as well. And the problem is the Stalkers are actually not here to help out anymore. And there's just nothing here at the third. I really think the Stalkers had to come back home.
Well, even with the Stalkers, I'm hesitant to say they would actually have helped. He's up against 1 upgrade. He would have been anti-armor missiled. He had no Guardian Shield. I think he intentionally was going to try and do a base trade, but even that is not working. Gerald loses his 3rd Nexus without doing too much damage. Just 12 SCVs so far, and a recall is going to lose him more units.
Oh man, I really was starting to believe, because I thought, you know, remember the Dark Shrine finished up. That could have been maybe the saving grace here, where you warp in 1 or 2 DTs defensively, and then you start spreading out the DTs inside of your opponent's main base and natural with the Warp Prism. I thought maybe there was something there, but it looks like it's not going to end up being the case. The Raven is also still alive, even though he tries to focus fire down once or twice. This bio is already traded out more than efficiently enough, and Gerald is down to nearly 1/3 of the supply of uThermal.
I'm surprised he's not trying to snipe that Raven since the Dark Shrine is still in play, but no, just trying to clean up the last remnants of units, but there's more on the way, reinforcing down the path of Death Ore, and that's going to be it. Gerald has 15 arm supply to 68.
Yeah, I think Gerald maybe was just focused on the defense also, so probably didn't see exactly how many workers he killed maybe. Wanted to give it an extra shot, and that's going to be a bit tough. He's just get scanned, even without the Raven. There it is, GG. 2-0 uThermal.